Welcome back. I'm Meghan McKenna, and I help conscious, caring women break the pattern of overeating for life using a simple 3-step method that I discovered to heal myself, and that's called the embodiment solution. Today, we are talking about nighttime eating, eating after dinner, eating at the end of the day to wind down. Everyone else has gone to sleep. And whether that's snacking, binging, eating after dark. And there are a number of ways that I address this with my clients. We're going to talk about that toward the end. Some things you can do to break that pattern. If you're someone who eats during the day, if you graze, you overeat more during the day, this episode is not for you. This is geared to support the woman who is overeating perhaps every night, most nights, and is stuck in a cycle of eating late, maybe even eating past bedtime, eating while tired, eating through fatigue, exhaustion, and then waking up the next morning with a food hangover, with guilt, with shame, and starting the next day in a less than ideal place. Maybe feeling bloated, feeling uncomfortable in her body, and just feeling yet another day went by when she broke her trust with herself. She broke her trust with her body, where her body was clearly saying, "Stop, this is enough food." And instead of having a consensual relationship with her body, that's something I talk about a lot. I work with my clients deeply on developing a consensual relationship with their body. So it's not a situation like night eating, for instance, where body says no more. And because of the pattern, she overrides that. And if this is you and you're listening still, then we'll just use you. You probably override your body and it probably feels awful because likely you are like my clients where you probably move your body, you walk or you exercise, you practice yoga or Pilates, you have an awareness of nutrition, of healthy food, what to eat, what not to eat, and that's not the issue. And in other areas of your life, you are successful, you have a lot of self-control, and you just feel so much shame. You might even hide this pattern and the terror of feeling out of control. If you aren't running the show with what you eat and you're not able to stop when your body tells you stop, and you're overriding what your body is telling you, so you're not in a consensual relationship with your body, you're going to feel terrible about yourself. Let's just be honest, okay? I'm not here to paint a prettier picture than what's happening when a woman is overriding her body regularly. She has no self-respect because to respect ourselves, we need to be able to show up for ourselves in a way that we feel good about. She has no self-trust because, as with other relationships, any relationship, the foundation is feeling a sense of trust. Like there's a way of we do what we say we're going to do, right? We follow through with what we promise. And for this woman who struggles with overeating, she's someone who shows up for others. She's solid in relationships. She's solid in her friendships and with her children, with her clients, but she's not solid for herself. And on the inside, she is so disturbed by this. She's usually disgusted with herself. Oftentimes, she's disgusted by what she looks like, not even so much because of the body image stuff, but mostly because she knows deep down that the way she looks, if she has extra adipose tissue, extra weight on her body, is a result of living in a non-consensual relationship with her body. and she's just terrified because she feels out of control. Okay. And the nighttime is a specific kind of overeating, a specific kind of overriding that is in a lot of ways creating the deepest metabolic issues, right? Because we're eating at nighttime, and there's a whole area of study around that. But it's also creating the deepest harm because those moments before bed, those last minutes and hours before bed, how we are is going to impact our sleep time, our dream time, and it sets the tone for the next day. In sacred texts, a lot of times the idea of the day starts the evening before, and that's when it all starts. And so the woman who overeats regularly at night, she's setting her next day up to already be ruined before it even starts. And she usually wakes up feeling not only physically unwell, but also mentally foggy, right? There's a lot of times there's emotional disturbances that aren't actual emotions. They're manufactured emotions coming from the blood chemistry and the way the overeating is shifting her hormones, disturbing her internal state. And so there's a lot of emotions that aren't even just based on what she's feeling, but there's also that emotion of what she's feeling that she stores and stashes in her body because she wants to numb because it's too much. And so if you're still with me, still listening, I just want to say if this is something you experience, it's not your fault. You aren't messed up. It's not hopeless. Even if you've been doing it for 20 years, 40 years, 5 years. For me it was years and years, and my overeating pattern started at 5 years old. I won't go deep into my story now, but I think it's important to know because if you are seeking support from someone who's an expert in helping women break the pattern, you really want to look for two things. Well, more than that, but two really important things. One, it needs to be embodiment based, it needs to be moving the stuff through the tissues. It can't just be in the mind because the pattern is in the body. The second is if you're looking for someone who um, helps women with this, she is going to be more powerful for you on your healing journey if she's experienced this firsthand, if she knows from the inside out the pain, the shame, the devastation, the feeling out of control. And most importantly, she needs to know firsthand the feeling of doubt that anything's going to work. So for me, I searched every corner of the earth. I invested tens and tens of thousands of dollars, probably close to a down payment of a house in the town I live, which is Santa Barbara. I probably invested $250,000. I don't even know. I'm going off on a tangent. I don't even know if you could. That's enough for a down payment these days in Santa Barbara um, with the housing market. But anyhow, I invested so much, at least $250,000 over the years, over the span of 20 years in Ayurvedic retreats, in nutritionists, in therapists, in seeing muscle testing specialists and supplements and IV supplements and yoga retreats, and I mean, everything. I did Overeaters Anonymous, I did hypnotherapy, I did advanced hypnotherapy. Um, I did all kinds of meditations, and I went to India. I went across the country to study with a top nutritionist. So I did it all, and it really took me piecing so many things together that I learned along the way, plus things I discovered through connecting to my own body to find a solution that actually lasts and that actually works. And the biggest holdup for women who, not women who are in my program working with me, because once they get in and start, they see this actually really works. And as long as you do the work, it works. But the women who have tried everything and are considering working with me, the biggest thing that comes up for them, it's less about investing time or investing their resources because truly they'd probably pay anything. They'd probably cut off their arm, to get to the root of this. I know I would have. Um, it's more their hesitation is I've tried everything and I doubt that something can actually work. And that doubt is something that I came up against, especially with nighttime eating, because it's such an ingrained pattern. And I'm going to talk now about nighttime eating and what it's about, and the four main causes, and then the four solutions, and the solutions that my women, my clients find to be helpful, and also the solutions where I no longer eat at night. I generally don't even eat after sundown, and I don't binge at night. I don't binge at all. And I did for years. Okay. So for 20 years. So I'm not special. If I did it, you can do it. And I've also seen so many women walking alongside them break this cycle for good, all ages from 29 to 65. So it's possible. Okay, let's talk about nighttime eating and why it happens. The biggest thing I notice is it's a mother wound, so that's one piece of it. If you're looking at me saying or listening to me saying, "Megan, I had a wonderful mother," so it's not that, then we'll get to that because there are 3 other contributors. But the mothering that we need at night, as adults even, is really, really special. It's really important. And there's a practice I teach my clients to do where they actually learn to create a nurturing environment in their own mind, in their own heart, with their self talk, with their embodiment practices. But for a lot of women, they didn't have a warm, loving mother, or they have an abandoned wound, or they were neglected, or they didn't know their mom, or they were adopted, or their mom's a narcissist or a sociopath. And what I teach my clients, and this is also what's really helped me in my journey, is there's all that happened and we can focus on that, but we can focus on what we're creating. And that's what we shift. And that's where therapy falls short is there's a lot of talk and process about what's happened. And I don't think that's not valuable. It's valuable. There's a time and a place for it. However, for becoming the woman that doesn't have any struggles with food or overeating or nighttime eating, we need to turn toward where we're going as opposed to look back to where we came from. So it's inner mothering, which is that warm, nurturing presence. And food can be that, right? Our first food is breast milk. It's symbolic of the bosom. We need to feel nurtured at night. Every human does. If we don't, for some, it's they take some glasses of wine. For others, it's the food. And when it's the food, it can get really dark because of for a number of reasons. We'll save that for later. The second piece of overeating at night is unprocessed stress, unprocessed feelings, undigested emotions. Most people, even if they've done therapy, they journal, they think they are processing feelings, but they aren't because feelings get processed in the body. And if the body is tense, the feelings and the stress and the emotions, they just get locked up in the tissues. And so there's too much to feel and it's too intense. And women who come to me, it's surprising that actually about half my clients are therapists. And then the others have usually done a lot of therapy and they know how to talk about their feelings. They know how to make sense of their feelings. They know how to label their feelings. And um, I just have to be honest. That's not feeling your feelings. Talking about feelings is not feeling your feelings. Labeling your feelings is not feeling your feelings. They need to be moved through the living tissues of the body. And so we're going to talk about that. Then the third piece why women overeat So first, it's inner mothering, lack thereof. Second, it's undigested, unprocessed feelings, stress, and emotions from the day, or a backlog from the week, or a backlog from your whole life. The third one is being stuck in go mode. This is especially for busy professionals, for moms who are either single moms or they're doing a lot of mothering alone, or they have a special needs child, or they're just holding it all together, or their husband is maybe not as driven. Women who are in go mode all the time, they're stuck in go mode, which is in a way protection mode. There's a lot of armoring, there's a lot of bracing, there's a lot of doing. And we're not wrong for that. We're in a time where, as women, we have to hold and take on more than we ever have. And it's draining us, it's depleting us. There's such a spike in women reaching to food for comfort. And every friend of mine or person I talk to, or people at the gym that I talk to, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I know so many people, especially women, who struggle with food, and they feel like they just can't get out of it." But they can't get out of it, not because there's not a way. I have a proven method. I've seen it consistently work. They can't get out of it because they're trying things that aren't addressing any of the root causes, right? They're trying more diets, they're trying hard workouts, which is probably putting them more into protection mode. By the way, I'm not against hard workouts, but when a woman is in go mode, and then she does a hard workout on top of that, she usually ends up overeating more instead of doing what she needs to do to get out of protection mode. So being stuck in protection mode, locked up, the body is craving something to soften. What does that? Not for good, but temporarily for that moment that it's on the tongue. Maybe some creme brulee or some yummy ice cream or cake or cupcake or whatever it is. For a moment it does, but do you know what it also does? Eating that puts the body more in protection mode. So if you're listening to this, you overeat every night, the longer you wait to get the right help, it's it's always possible, but the longer you wait, the more it will take to unwind it. I'm not saying it's not possible. I've seen it happen consistently, but if you push this down another 6 months, another year, you're going to have that much more layer and layer and layer and layer and layer on top of your softness, of your soft heart. And it just takes a lot of undoing that protection mode, that bracing. And a lot of women will say, well, how do I keep my life together and get out of protection mode? There's something we do in the embodiment solution. And this is something we lay at the very beginning, and it's called establishing your inner leader. For a lot of women, especially if they feel brain fog, they feel bloated and have chronic inflammation in their body and brain, they feel a little bit not in control of their inner voice, of their mind, of their actions, and they feel a little bit scattered or kind of off center. We develop a firm, loving, warm, directive inner leader voice. And that's very important because that can take the place of protection mode. Protection mode is when the body is braced. The inner leader is actually calm, centered, collected, and looking more from the mountain view and looking at as third party and able to make the right choice, connecting with that kind of larger, bigger um, energy, you could call it higher self, spirit. So those are the first three. Let's talk now about the fourth piece to nighttime eating. The fourth piece is you don't know how to truly rest, how to really rest. You might say, Megan, I know how to rest. I take vacations. I can unwind with a great movie and wine at night. I can lie down and take a nap if I'm tired. These are sort of rest. Our culture thinks of this as rest, but rest has specific inner mechanics to rest your mind and rest your body. And you might say, well, that's meditation. I practice and train my clients in a type of rest. It's a signature practice called deep nourishment, where we're lying down on the ground, either belly to the earth or lying on our backs, fully supported. And you learn the 5 core layers, foundational layers of the inner mechanics of resting. And each phase of my program, my clients learn one of those mechanics. So they're developing not the idea I should rest, because what does that even mean? I should rest. Does that mean go lie down and scroll on your phone with the blue light in your eyes on your bed? Does that mean check out and eat a bag of chips while you're watching Netflix? Not to me. To me, rest is something that my animal body can feel, that feels so deeply nourishing, to where my mind is rested and my mind can actually settle and rest into the home of my body. And it's also a resting of the heart. So the inner mechanics of rest are so important for nighttime, because if we've been going all day, rushing kids to school or going from one client to the next, running errands, work life, all of that, we are not in rest mode when we are at the end of our day. And that transition from I call it from alpha to omega, from doer to more spaciousness and being. That transition is so crucial. So it's that time once the laptop gets put away, or the last client is done with, you're done with your last client for the day, or you're driving home from work and it's time to shift. Most women don't do that. What do? They either, and this is not from judgment, this is what we do, right? Either start snacking, start eating, or pour a glass of wine, or zone out with the TV or with the phone. And the thing about that is it's more check out. It's like numb out, check out versus actual nourishment. And so when we learn the pathways of true nourishment, the pathways of truly resting, the reach to food, because we don't know how to actually rest, we're trying to rest and relax through all that food. And then you know what happens? We eat when we're not hungry, we get more stressed, our body's more stressed because it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of damage. And unfortunately, the body positivity movement, the food freedom movement is not talking about this. It's not PC to talk about this, but I think it's important that we are honest about the fact that overeating chronically creates a lot of damage to the body. My body is still experiencing the repercussions of 20 years of chronic overeating. Now, thank goodness I stopped overeating a long time ago, so my body's a lot healthier than I would be, but there is damage, and if we don't address that, I know I see it, especially once women get into menopausal years, it can really create a lot of problems. And then don't get me started on then they'll think I'm going to go do GLP-1s or liposuction or some kind of crash diet. And that doesn't address any of it, right? That doesn't address any of what's actually happening. And that usually just makes matters worse, eventually. So we have the 4 main causes of nighttime eating. We have inner mothering, lack of it. Okay. So not feeling nourished, nurtured, loved, embraced. And there's a way that women in my program learn how to, like, energetically, with their inner voice, with their environment in their home, with their nighttime rituals, routines, they give themselves that warmth that a mother would give her little one. So that's the first thing that will solve the lack of inner mothering. The second thing I guide my clients to do is to process stress and feelings and learn very specific embodiment practices with. So I also created the AMBA method. It's an embodiment method, and we use 5 main practices: breath. We have 24 breaths in my program. we have sound, we have movement, all kinds of different movement styles, touch, actually touching our body with body, body awakening, and then somatic imagery where we're trying on what it feels like to be the woman we're becoming. So those 5 pathways, and with all of those combined, I guide my clients in practices that very effectively and efficiently, doesn't take more than 15, 20 minutes, process all of that stress that's being held in their bodies so they can go into their evening and flow into their evening without the weight and the tension and the clenching from the day, and go be with their husbands and enjoy their evenings, or go be with their kids or with their dog, go for walks out in nature, and actually be relaxed and enjoy them because they've processed all that stress from the day. The third thing I teach my clients inside of the embodiment solution is getting themselves out of go mode and protection mode, learning how to transition from doer, goer, holding it all together to a softer way in the evening. Because if we're not in that softer space and we're in the few hours before bed, our system, through its brilliance, through its intelligence, is going to try and find that through food. And food's going to do the opposite, but it seems like a good idea. And that's why I always say to women who have been struggling with this for years and are still struggling, you're not broken. You're not going to be messed up forever. You just haven't had the right help. You haven't gotten the right support, and you probably don't have a community. And that's also very, very important as well, so that you can see, one, that you're not the only one, that people struggle with the same thing, but also the women who are ahead and down the road. And now I have in my community, we have graduates of my program that continue on, and women can see, wow, this is really possible. So it is possible. You're probably stuck in protection mode if you're doing this regularly, meaning nightly or multiple times a week. And so I teach my clients how to get out of protection mode and how to actually soften, calm themselves down in a way that is body based, that is about nervous system regulation, that is about the inner voice being kind and loving and consistent and creating safety on the inside. So that's the third thing to address. And then the fourth thing you need to address if you're struggling with chronic nighttime eating is learning to truly rest. So learning the inner mechanics of true rest. Like I said, I have five, actually six layers of those mechanics in my program for women who are walking that journey with me. And once you know them, you start to feel like it's easier and easier to get into that state. And really, you become a super rester. You learn how to rest, and then you start to gain the wisdom to know when you need to rest. And a lot of my clients, if they have a busy day, they'll do deep nourishment midday at their lunch break or at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they'll start to unwind some of that stress that has built up through their day. Even 10, 15 minutes of that pause can help them so, so much. So these are the four really important pieces um, to address those four main causes. The last thing I'll say, that I get consistent feedback from all of my clients. This is one of the most valuable things they find on the embodiment solution journey that they're going through. It's only 12 weeks, by the way, which I know a lot of people are surprised by that they can make such big progress in 12 weeks. But the thing is, if something is taking years, it's not really working, is it? It's not really working if it's taking years. It doesn't take years and years and years. It just takes having the exact right things and a somatic based approach that is addressing all layers of the being. So if it doesn't address both the physical and the mental and the emotional and the spiritual layers of the being, it's not holistic enough. This needs to be have the full arsenal to address every single layer of the woman because we are multidimensional beings. And so the last thing, what I was saying is there are realignment steps. And for my clients, I have a basic set of realignment steps. And as they get farther along, there's a more advanced set. And realignment steps are basically a map for what to do when you overeat. When you have a moment of you've you've done an override with food in some capacity and you realize it and you don't want to downward spiral, shame yourself. You don't want to feel like crap in your body. You want to feel good as soon as possible. And so these steps are things you can do. And we address what to do emotionally with the emotions that come up from overeating. We address what to do physically so you feel better right away. We address what to do with your mind and your inner leader voice that you're developing every day inside of my program. And then we also address how to reconnect kind of on that level of the heart or the spirit, because overeating, just like an alcohol problem, just like any substance problem, it creates a wedge between us and the divine. And it really, really does. And I know a lot of women who are deeply spiritual. And so they don't do, the substances or the drinking or the other things, but they are overeating. And as they go through this journey and they feel a closer relationship with love, divine, whatever they call it, they start to feel, oh my gosh, I have been so disconnected through my overeating from hearing guidance, hearing the voice of my heart, because that overeating just crowds the body, it crowds the spirit, it crowds our field. And it really dominates our existence when we're in that chronic pattern. So the realignment steps need to address all of those layers. For example, on the physical, right? It's like, what can restore your vitality as soon as possible? Um, and and then there are more advanced steps as well. Once someone's kind of been through my whole program and they're ready for the deeper things that can kind of get them out of that pattern quicker and not have them feel like they're going down into some negative spiral. We catch it. With my clients, we catch it soon. They also can reach out to me for support. So it's kind of caught soon with love, with warmth. And then they just get right back on track, becoming the woman they're becoming. No, like having to unpack trauma and years from history and childhood. That's actually not necessary. And oftentimes it gets in the way of the progress, because it's really about realigning with who you know you actually are, with the woman you are, who's not drowning in an overeating struggle. So I think that's it for now. If you're listening to this and you want to connect about getting more support, you can go to book an assessment with me, and the assessments we together unpack what specifically you are struggling with the most, what level of advancement you are in your overeating pattern. There's level 1, 2, 3, and that's something that I will give you in my assessment. And then we also look at what you might have been missing so you can realize and have deeper compassion for yourself and understanding, oh, okay, I've tried all these things, they haven't worked, and it's not because something's wrong with me. It's actually because I haven't had the right root cause issues addressed fully. And so we look at those. And then we talk at the end. If it feels like a mutual fit, we talk if we want to potentially partner and work together to get you not having to deal with overeating ever again. And so you can just go enjoy the heck out of your beautiful life. So if you want to book that assessment call, you can go to meghanmckenna.com/, what is it? Application. So Meghan spelled with an H, that's MEGHANMAKENA, like the beach, .com /. application. All right. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thanks for listening.